I really regret buying a condo. I bought this condo for $280,000 a few years ago. I just couldn't help but take a look at the market. The condo in the same community is sold for $180,000 and no buyer wants it. I borrowed a loan of $140,000, so I have to pay $700 a month for the mortgage and for the rest of 28 years. Now I'm thinking that if I sell this condo, it may only be priced at a little over $140,000, which is just enough for me to pay the mortgage, which means that $100,000 has evaporated in vain. In 2024, the total subway traffic in China reached a record high of 32.24 billion passengers. However, due to the high construction costs, subways in many cities still struggle to generate a profit from train ticket revenue. According to statistics from a professional Chinese organization, after deducting central government subsidies, subways in at least 26 cities across the country are operating at a loss. It's worth noting that Shenzhen Metro, once the most profitable, lost 4.7 billion in 2024. Shenzhen Metro's losses are directly related to its investment in China's real estate giant Vanke Group. The continued decline of China's real estate market has led to Vanke's debt crisis, with the highest decline in Shenzhen's real estate market reaching 70%. Let's talk about these topics today. But before we do, we would like to invite you to subscribe. Your support is our greatest motivation and allows us to bring you more valuable content. Now, moving on. This blogger is a Beijing drifter, that is, a migrant employee in Beijing. What is her experience of squeezing into the subway to go to work? What is it like to commute nearly 2 hours to work in Beijing? I currently live in Haidian and work in Chongping. I get up at 6:30 in the morning, leave home at 6:50, and set off for work. I first ride my electric bike to the subway station, which takes 10 minutes. I get on the subway at 7:05 in the morning and choose this door slot to get on the train, which is convenient for transfers later. There are basically no seats available at this time because it's the period when many people are on the subway. Let's see what everyone is doing on the subway at 7 o'clock in the morning. Parents who are taking their kids to extra classes, students who are reciting English words, office workers who are reading ebooks or listening to music. 7:20 to transfer to Metro Line 4. Every time I transfer, I will unconsciously speed up my pace, kind of afraid I will be beaten if I fall behind. The train will arrive in 2 minutes. Everyone is waiting in line and just one person in front of me. See if I can get a seat when I get on the train. As soon as the door opened, a person suddenly appeared from the side and rushed in front of me. A guy doesn't follow the conventional law. I arrived at Haidian Huangzhuang soon. The highway was a bit congested today, and I finally arrived at the company at 8:35. Today's commute took 1 hour and 45 minutes. Would you like to come to the city by living a life like a Beijing drifter? The subway systems in many cities rely on government subsidies to maintain operations. In 2024, Beijing Metro received a subsidy of 3.5 billion from the Chinese central government. After deducting this 3.5 billion, Beijing Metro still lost 3.2 billion. Beijing Metro has always been the enterprise with the most government subsidies and the most losses. Although the average daily passenger flow of Beijing Metro was close to 9.86 million, it's still difficult to make a profit. The primary reason why China's subway system is not profitable is that its construction and operating costs are extremely high. There are two reasons for this. The first is serious corruption. The National Development and Reform Commission of the Communist Party of China revealed that the average cost of building a subway in China is 100 million per kilometer. For example, Beijing Metro Line 16 is 50 kilometers long and costs 8.3 billion, which means 170 million per kilometer. The higher the cost of the subway, the more power rent-seeking and the more serious corruption and bribery. The second reason for the loss of China's subway is that it's a state-owned enterprise and does not pursue profits, even if it's not profitable. It receives government subsidies. This is the result of China's special system. In 2025, more and more Chinese employees refer to themselves as cattle or horses, implying that they work tirelessly and lead lives as hard as those of cattle and horses. This blogger recorded in a video how many cattle and horses were in the carriages of Guangzhou Metro Line 3 during the morning rush hour. I thought I could get on the subway, but I was hardly hit when I got on the platform. There are still so many people. The most annoying thing is that every time the train comes, it's full of people and only 2 or 3 people can squeeze in each time. At this moment, the subway is a conveyor belt for cattle and horses to concrete in front of me, and I suddenly think of a sentence. Cattle and horses have no time to rest in their lives, and when they have time to rest, they have slept eternally under the mountains. At this time, people are continuing to join in line, and more people are waiting to enter the subway. There was a girl in front of me who was squeezed down when entering the subway. Now the time is 8:32 and I finally got on the subway. As a person living in a 5th-tier city, I feel that people in big cities have already peeled off a layer of skin by squeezing into the subway like this every morning. However, China's economic downturn is also reflected to a certain extent in the subway cars. A Shenzhen blogger took Metro Line 1 to Shenzhen Bay Ecological Science and Technology Park. She said that she had not taken the subway during the morning rush hour for half a year. After getting on the subway, she found that there were indeed fewer people taking the subway than before. Metro Line 1 is one of the busiest lines in Shenzhen because this line leads to the busiest Shenzhen University Station and High-Tech Park Station in the Science and Technology Park. The main force of the Science and Technology Park is young people under 35 years old, who are also the main force of Shenzhen's morning rush hour. A few days ago, I saw posts on a social platform stating that there were fewer people on the Shenzhen Metro, and now this is indeed the case. Metro Line 1, which previously required queuing and crowding, can now be easily accessed even during peak hours. I don't know if this happened when I came today, or if it's become the norm. On the subway, 99% of people are immersed in their own world with their mobile phones. Shenzhen's young people are very pragmatic. Don't judge them by their simple t-shirts and slippers. They may be employees of a large company with high salaries. In Shenzhen, you will find that time is squeezed severely. Everyone is rushing forward and can't stop at all. Of course, they dare not stop because it's too difficult to take root in a big city, especially a top city like Shenzhen. Shenzhen Metro was once the profit king of China's subway industry, but in 2024 it suffered a loss of 4.7 billion, setting a record for the largest loss in the history of China's urban rail transit, and lost all the money earned in the past 5 years in 1 year. Shenzhen Metro has been profitable for 14 consecutive years, not by selling tickets but mainly relying on the income from the so-called station city integration business. That is, develop real estate around subway stations. Now, Shenzhen Metro, from a profit king to a loss king, is related to the real estate company Vanke. In 2017, Shenzhen Metro spent 9.2 billion to buy nearly 30% of Vanke's shares from China Resources and Evergrande, becoming Vanke's largest shareholder. The real estate market was booming at the time. As a major shareholder of Vanke, Shenzhen Metro received a considerable amount of dividends every year. However, after 2021, the real estate market took a sharp downturn. As a benchmark company in the industry, Vanke was the first to suffer a heavy blow, which dragged down Shenzhen Metro. Vanke lost 7 billion last year. As the largest shareholder, Shenzhen Metro naturally had to share this part of the loss according to its shareholding ratio, so it lost a lot of money all of a sudden. In recent years, the real estate market has experienced a collapse with housing prices plummeting and the entire market in a state of panic. Notably, China's real estate giant Vanke has not been spared. In Shenzhen, some housing prices have even plummeted by 70%. Big news in Shenzhen's real estate market, overnight Guangming's housing prices plummeted by 70%. The price dropped from 4,200 per square meter to the current 2,000, and no buyers. The current condo owners collectively can fall asleep watching the housing prices fall, but they are helpless. China has a strict household registration system, and in many big cities, children of migrant workers cannot attend public schools. The government stipulates that by purchasing expensive houses, their children can go to school in the city. Now, many such homeowners are caught in a dilemma. Let me tell you the real situation of people who own condos in Shenzhen. Do you also think that owning a condo in Shenzhen seems to be very impressive? I'll use my personal experience to tell you how helpless we are now. I came to Shenzhen in 2006 and have been here for almost 20 years. I have also suffered a lot. After I married my wife in 2012, we used all our savings and my parents also contributed to raise some money, which we then used to make the down payment on a condo. At that time, the housing prices in Shenzhen were not so high. We purchased it for $1,400 per square meter with a 30-year mortgage and a monthly payment of $1,000. At the beginning, the pressure was not that great. My wife and I had a little left every month after deducting living expenses from our combined salary. We lived happily for a few years. Later, my wife got pregnant and gave birth to a child. Because my parents were not in good health, she had to take care of the child herself after birth. My wife stopped working and all the pressure fell on me alone. In fact, the company had already started laying off employees last year. I thought it was not my turn. I was too confident and was fired in the end. It's not that I haven't thought about starting a business. My friends who start their businesses are basically in debt. Some have to mortgage their homes and now they live worse than I do. I also thought about selling my condo and going back to my hometown to develop, but I can't sell it. What should I do with my children's schooling if I sell it?
水的问题怎么办？
在深圳最后悔的一件事情就是买房。
The thing I regret most in Shenzhen is buying a condo. Our family bought a condo in 2019 when the housing prices were at their peak and the pandemic followed. We had only lived in the condo for a short time, but we had already lost $140,000. To pay off the mortgage and support the family, I am at work 365 days a year, except for the few days during the Chinese New Year. I am either on a business trip or busy in the store. Originally, buying a condo was a very happy thing for a family, for it provides us, people who work outside their hometown, a home, but it's also a huge financial burden and pressure. This mortgage is a pressure, and I have to work hard every day to pay off the mortgage. The principal has not been reduced yet, and I lost $140,000 all of a sudden.
然后房贷还没有怎么还吧，结果一下子就亏了100多万。
Some migrant workers in Shenzhen choose to build their houses in their hometowns, but they are not in a good mood either.
一提到买房子，
Once it comes to buying a condo, my husband and I would argue. We have been in Shenzhen for more than 10 years. In 2019, we saved $84,000 and I wanted to buy a condo in Shenzhen. At that time, we bought a commodity condo. $84,000 could not even be enough for the down payment at all, so I wanted to buy a collective condo. $84,000 can buy a smaller 2-bedroom one, and I don't have to bear a 30-year mortgage, and the pressure is not so great. But the disadvantage is that there is no community for a collective condo building. Most of them are single buildings. The geographical location is relatively remote and the surrounding supporting facilities are relatively average. Still, I think as long as there is a space to live in, it's fine. But my husband disagreed 100% and he was not happy when looking at such condos. He had a stern face. He looked for several months but didn't pick any. He either thought it was too expensive, too small, or that the environment was too bad. Finally, I decided not to buy. When my mother-in-law found out that we had the idea of buying a condo, she told my husband that it would be stressful to buy a condo in Shenzhen, so it would be better to return to our hometown and build one ourselves, as our children can go back to their hometown to go to school without spending so much money. If we don't want to develop in Shanghai in the future, we can still live in our hometown. My husband also agreed with his mother's opinion. I couldn't persuade them, so I had to agree. It took more than 2 years to build the house, and after finishing, we moved in. However, I still regret it when I think of this. I only live in it for a few days during the Chinese New Year, and the rest of the time it's vacant. Every time I return, the house is musty. I get upset when I think about it, so I have to fight with my husband when I mention the house.
3年前我们
The condo we bought for $700,000 3 years ago has become a hot potato. In February 2021, when Shenzhen's housing prices were at their highest, we paid a 50% down payment of $380,000 and bought this secondhand condo. With the gift, the actual construction area is 160 square meters with 4 bedrooms, 2 living rooms, and 3 bathrooms. How excited we were when we just moved in, how speechless it is now. At that time, my condo purchase procedures had not been completed and the secondhand house guidance price was released. Friends in Shenzhen know how big the impact is. Shenzhen's housing prices have plummeted to the bottom. At that time, I comforted myself by saying that this was Shenzhen's housing prices, not those of other places, and it was impossible to be depressed all the time. But who knew that 3 years have passed in a flash? Even with various stimulus benefits now, the down payment has been reduced to 15%. and the quantity restrictions have been lifted, but the housing prices are still firmly at the bottom. The housing prices of the same type in our community have fallen by at least 40%. Our family is a typical high peak buyer. We have a condo in hand and the monthly mortgage pressure is very high. Sell it? We only have this one and my child can't go to school if we rent an apartment. Keep it? We need to pay a monthly for 30 years and the down payment has almost been lost. So I am in a dilemma. Before our purchase, housing prices were rising rapidly. I finally saved enough for the down payment and bought one, but the housing price was almost cut in half, which I couldn't swallow or spit out. If you ask me now whether I should buy a condo at that time, I will give a firm answer, no. That decision made us struggle for more than 20 years, and ordinary people like us have no chance to make mistakes. That's all for today. If you enjoy our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with a friend. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.